Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chiefs Digest, the live stream Q&A with yours truly, Matt Derrick. Always great to have you here. Hooray, hooray, it is Q&A day. Luttrell, thank you as always for getting us started. Um, uh, we're getting into it now. This is the last day of March. We are less than a month from the NFL draft. Things are going to start heating up there. We're going to have some more draft coverage coming up. I'm not gonna lie. I've had a little bit of an extended off season this year, kind of powering up and everything. I guess I've been a little bit like the Chiefs. We've had some long runs the last few years that I think I just need to recharge a little bit too. So I know you haven't been seeing as much at Chiefs Digest. That is about to change. There is going to be a lot more content, a lot more activity, more videos coming your way in the month of April as we get ready for the draft. So I'm hoping you're feeling like this is kind of the kickoff to the season for you as well, because I'm getting ready to really kind of throw myself into a lot of projects right now and really looking forward to it as always. And the things I like to talk about the most are going to be here on the Q&A. I don't know that I'm going to have much of a monologue tonight because I just want to basically get into your questions, what you are thinking, what's on your mind right now. The Chiefs higher ups, Andy Reid, Brett Veach, Clark Hunt, all at the NFL owners meetings. Talking this week, Andy Reid, did his scrum at breakfast this morning with reporters. I've never gone to the NFL owners meetings. I've always wanted to. I will not. Once again, full transparency here. Usually, the NFL owners meetings are a little bit outside my budget. The corporate people are there. Those are the ones that can definitely afford to go to where the NFL owners meetings are being held. Not a little bit outside the budget of the independent reporters such as myself. So I would like to do it one year just for the fun of it. Although I know it would have to be a lost leader because those are pricey trips. So they like to go to some places where it's a good place for the glitterati to hang out and everything like that and get a little bit of privacy and all those fun things. So, but we got to hear from Andy Reid at his scrum at breakfast this morning. We've gotten this hear from Brett Veach talking to Peter Schrager about the draft and some things that he is seeing and what they're talking about. Uh, let's get into it. I guess we have also seen the video from last week of Patrick Mahomes throwing since our last Q&A. We talked a little bit about that on 41 is the mic with Nick Jacobs. And that's the only thing I wanted to, kind of talk about and everything. Nick and I were joking about things. I know there, some comments and everything, both on social media and then on the video itself and everything. Nick is right now. I mean, he's working full time. He's at his job at 41, and obviously we're doing the podcast. 41 is the mic. He is stepping back a little bit from what he normally does this time of year with the draft, simply because, as most of you know, his father passed away in December. That is a obviously just heartbreaking moment for anyone, and Nick has told his story a little bit here. Nick and I are both pretty private guys too. I mean, we don't wear everything on our sleeves. I do encourage you to ask anything on the Q&A, and I try to live up to that. There's probably times that I have to keep some things to myself, but and Nick's a private guy too. But I know that was a big thing for him to kind of share that part of his world. Obviously, as anybody can imagine, when a parent passes away, it's even beyond the physical toll there and the mental toll. There's logistics that are involved. There's a lot of things on Nick's plate. So there's a lot of family commitments that he's got having to deal with and kind of juggle with his job. So that's what's keeping him away from being able to do as much draft coverage as he normally does. Being able to do any, some of the other things, like even dropping that in on here on the live stream periodically. Was talking to Nick last night, and he said, hey, after everything's with the dad and all of these things that gets put to bed, he's like, we'll do more and everything. And I said, so you're saying there's a chance And so he's like, one day, he will drop in on the Q&A. So rest assured, it will happen. But anybody, Nick, I think it tells you a lot about just what's on his plate and some of the things that are going on in his life. Nick, as I've known this man for about, gosh, it's going to be going on 16 years, I guess, this year. Um, and there's no one who loves football, and particularly the NFL draft, like Nick. It was a few years ago when I'm before we started this podcast that I made the joke to him about that his title was NFL draft enthusiast. He has that on his voicemail that identifies him as an NFL draft enthusiast, because I pegged him that. So I'm very honored that he has it on his voicemail. And it's the inside joke behind the beginning of every episode of 41 is the mic that I have Nick being an enthusiast of all sorts. It all comes from being an NFL draft enthusiast. I know Nick would love to have the time to get more into the draft this year. It's just not something he can put on his plate. He is going to do a first round mock because that's something that he's been doing for so long. And you as hopefully as followers of the program know, last year, Nick won a national contest with several thousand experts across the country, big names. He was the most accurate predictor the first round last year of anybody in the country, anybody that follows the NFL and covers the NFL. So he's definitely going to defend his crown. He's doing that, but you won't see a big board. You won't see all of those things, but that's just because Nick doesn't have his time to himself. And I completely and totally respect that. He's one of my dearest friends, and I hope all of you do it. I know the vast majority of you do as well. Every once in a while, things can misconstrued in the comments sections of websites and on social media, and things get misinterpreted. So I hopefully everybody understands just everything that Nick is going through. And you know what, we're going to get a lot more, I think, draft coverage from Nick in 2027. So I wish there was more this year. We all do, but Nick deserves it. Anybody who deserves the time, to themselves, it's definitely Nick. So all that said, I think that's my monologue for tonight. Let's get right into it. And as always, fire away with any questions that you got. Like I said, I'll try my best to answer them. I don't try to dodge too much. And I guess I'm in a kind of feisty mode today. So you never know what kind of answers you might get today. We will start with the super chat that I noticed from Dog Petter. I assume that's you, Dog Petter. When YouTube made the change that going to your account names rather than the names that you have on your account, nicknames or anything like that, I always assumed this was you, Dog Petter. So if it's not, I'm calling you the wrong thing. Please feel free to correct me. But super chats, when I notice them, definitely go to the top of the line. So pick 29 and the 5th rounder for DeForest Buckner. My first reaction is to probably pass, but I am going to do my due diligence on this one. Always check in, and I'm going to check and see what his contract situation is, first of all. I definitely don't remember that off the top of my head. It's got one more year left on this year, 13,000, year 32. So he has a roster bonus that's guaranteed for this season. It's already been paid. Actually got some void years, so the Colts would have to eat a good chunk of that money. So if I'm reading this right, Chiefs would be have $13 million coming their way. The Colts would have to eat, gosh, it looks like this year's got 30 million dead cap, so they'd have to eat 17.8 million. Boy, I mean, and the more and more I think about it, I mean, actually, my first thought is that I don't think would be a great deal for the Chiefs, and I think I'm thinking that even more. I mean, I'm starting to think maybe that wouldn't be great for the Colts either, but actually, I think it'd be a really good deal for the Colts. Dog Petter, I'm going to pass. He hasn't had a double-digit sack season in 6 years. Only had 4 sacks last year. I think DeForest Buckner at this point, I'd say, is pretty much Chris Jones. So I don't know if a first rounder and a fifth rounder for Buckner, 32. I feel like you're just adding another Chris Jones onto the team, and I guess two Chris Joneses put together right now at this point of their careers and season ages and everything might be one Chris Jones prime. But yeah, I see Weston's comment is, with the age, it is dog better. Fantastic. I'm gonna pass dog better. Yeah, I think I could consider it without the first rounder. Probably have to give it a little bit more than the fifth, especially because the Colts would have to eat some money off of that deal. But 1 year, 13 million. I mean, 2 picks and a first rounder is a lot to give up for a guy that's 32 that you may not even want to re-sign. He's certainly on the downslide of his career, so not as much there. I mean, and the Chiefs are honestly, hey, you've been hearing me. You know that we're talking about the Chiefs need a lot of new faces on that defensive line. They're going to need 4 to 5 new players on that line, and they've only added one so far. So I'm on board with adding defensive linemen. I just think that the Chiefs want to get younger. I think they want to get more affordable. It's not a bad deal, but even 13 million, Chiefs don't have that room in the cap right now. I mean, they'd have to restructure Creed Humphrey and or Trey Smith to get under that. And they're going to have to do that, I think, eventually anyway. So I think it's just too high a cost and too much for that dog Petter. But hey, keep thinking about it. Keep cracking it in there. I mean, we're going to come up with some ideas, and maybe they're going to be better than what Brett Veach and his staff comes up with. You never know. So I always encourage you to keep thinking. Appreciate the super chat and the question, dog Petter. Weston, based on Veach's interview with Peter Schrager in the 9th pick, who do you think, also based on what you're hearing, who they're going to draft at 9, or do you think they'll trade back to the teens? I mean, two parts to that question, Wes, and I think they're both great questions. It's like, one is Chiefs stay put at 9. Who are they going to take? And I'll say, I mean, based on everything we kind of see out there about who's going to be available, who's not, what the Chiefs' needs are, I certainly get the sense that defensive line is their first preference at that spot. And like I've been talking about, Ruben Bain, because I do believe that that's the player that the Chiefs seem to be most interested in it. They've had some conversations. I haven't seen whether or not if he has been scheduled for a 30 visit. Would not surprise me at all if that ends up happening. Wouldn't be surprised. I know that Ruben Bain's done a lot of interviews, did a lot at the combine, has absolutely just been excelling in those. Teams are really impressed with him. The only knock on Ruben Bain we've talked about is the arm length, but I certainly get the impression that the Chiefs are absolutely interested in Bain and that defensive line in general. I mean, it is absolutely one of the top needs that they've got. I mean, and the Chiefs have brought some other players in, and when you do look at those 30 visits, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I think that the Chiefs have learned enough about Ruben Bain that they probably don't even need to bring him in for a 30. I think they've learned enough as they need to, and and there are some rules now to let teams do Zooms with players beyond just the top 30 visits. Those 30 visits where they bring players in to their facilities to talk to them. There's going to be some players who slip by that we never know about until after the fact that they did 30 visits, and the Chiefs use their 30s, like we've talked about, for a lot of different reasons. I'm going to try. I don't think that they had either George Karlaftis or Trent McDuffie in, for example, on a 30 visit. I mean, there's players that they learn plenty about without having to bring them in. And the Chiefs do a lot of interesting things. I mean, they bring in 30 visits for players that they're interested in later in the draft, late round picks, undrafted free agents they've brought in for 30 visits. So that doesn't tell us a lot. And obviously, they focused a little bit on the receivers at the top of this draft. So I think you know, people who are looking at the 30,000 foot view of the Chiefs look at it and say, okay, they've got Caden Proctor that they've got scheduled for a 30 visit. It looks like. There's a couple of receivers, Carnell Tate and Mekhi Lemon are on that list, supposedly. Some other receivers, later draft picks have been in that mix as well. So that's going to, I mean, I think you're going to end up seeing going forward a lot of, people predicting that the Chiefs are going to go wide receiver at 9. And it's certainly possible. That is a position that's absolutely in the mix. Any premium position at 9, the Chiefs are interested. So defensive line, defensive tackle, wide receiver. Are they going to take an offensive tackle, in the first round, back-to-back years, and one of them at 9? I mean, I suppose it's possible, but the rationale that I see out there for why the Chiefs might take a receiver at 9 is completely nonsensical. We've talked about it. I mean, there's people talking about the Chiefs taking a offensive tackle because they want to move Josh Simmons to right tackle. They don't want to do that. It's not in their plan. Sometimes it's just they think that they need a starter for this year. I mean, hey, it's entirely possible they could draft a tackle that could come in and beat out Jalen Moore. They could get that tackle at 29. I mean, the more and more people I talk to, Francis Maligoa is probably the one. I hope I'm really pronouncing that one right. I've been trying to get better at it. The Francis Maligoa, the offensive tackle from Miami, is generally considered consensus top 5, top 10 pick. I expect he'll be gone before the Chiefs draft at 9. Ruben Bain seems to be, because of the arm length perception, that he'll be available at 9. I firmly believe if he's available at 9, the Chiefs are taking Ruben Bain. Probably doesn't matter who else is on the board at that point. If Bain is gone, and I'm once again, I'm not even sure if Maligo is available at 9 that the Chiefs will take him. I think that if anything, that the Chiefs strategy would probably be to circle back and look at 29 for a tackle. And once again, the reason why they might draft a tackle is that they would love to have a right tackle for the future to put on this offensive line. Brett Veach feels like if they did that, if they found the right tackle for the future in this draft, that this offensive line could be together for the next 5 years and beyond. Certainly could be the starting offensive line that they take into their new stadium in Kansas. I mean, that's how good this line could be. So that's how I kind of feel like about 9. Now, do you trade back from 9 to get more capital? Absolutely could. So again, what's Brett Veach's motivation for doing that? Why would he do it? Obviously, more draft picks. I think one would be if that the slam dunk players that he likes, and I think Bain is one of those players. Could one of the receivers end up being one of those players? I think we'll find out. Get some sense when they do have these players in. Now the Chiefs are pretty. Brett Veach does a pretty good job of holding his cards close to his vest on the draft. We don't always find out, what their real interest is until after. And even the things that Brett Veach says ahead of the draft is usually somewhat telling. Things that he does mention, doesn't mention. He's good at, not revealing what he wants to reveal and revealing things that he wants people to at least think, if not know. He may be trying to give people a certain impression. He's very, very good at that. So I think the Chiefs would entertain moving back from 9 if the 1, 2, or 3 players that are at the top of their board are not available. If there are some players that maybe are not in their top, 15 first round grades that they would consider, if they get on the board at 9 and every guy in front of them has been taken is all on their draft board. I mean, Brett Veach doesn't want to go any lower than 15. I mean, I think like 12, which I think that's where Dallas is. I think that'd be a really good sweet spot. I mean, that's a spot where you're still going to have some freedom to pick the player that you want and not just merely the last first round pick that's on the board. I think you would still get that a little bit of freedom to get who you want to get and get more draft capital for both now and in the future. So I mean, that would be the what they might do. So I hey, and I also was asked earlier today, could the Chiefs jump up if they think that they have to get the 7 to get a player that they particularly want? Could they? Yeah, I mean, they've got a few extra picks this year that they could possibly move up, and they could 29, they could move up or back, and they've got enough capital now after the Trent McDuffie trade. They got the draft capital to navigate the board a little bit. So I still think that they're going to stay at 9. I think they're going to take the player they want. 29, I think, is absolutely moving up is possible. I think moving back, that's much more fluid. But I certainly get the sense that Brett Veach is pretty excited about taking a player at 9. I think he knows it, he's hoping this is the last time he's picking in the top 10 for a long time. And for that reason, I mean, I think he wants to make that pick and he wants to get an impact player. So we'll see what happens, but I think they will go at 9, and I think it's going to be a premium player. Like I said, my bet would be on Ruben Bain at this point. If not him, then I think it would be a wide receiver. Offensive tackle might even be my 4th or 5th pick, because I think, again, if the likes of, if Caleb Downs is available at 9, there's a little questions there. Everything that could be an issue. Corner possible. I mean, and hey, if Sonny Styles is available at 9, maybe you consider that. I mean, this is a weird draft, so we'll see how it unfolds, Weston. But that's my 2 cents on 9 as it is for right now. Chris, I am so glad that somebody has picked up on the word cockles from Sunday, and the sub cockles. I like that. Hey, Nikki, I'll try and share everything I got. You got any questions about what's going on? I will try and share what I've heard. And like I said, not at the owners' meetings. If I've heard about anything, I'll share. Chris, watch the shorts that she's put out on Dan Mears. The Kingdom is definitely grateful for all the years he put in as the original KC Wolf. Can you share your favorite moment with him? I mean, I do have to say that the one thing that I will always remember and have about KC Wolf is the one with Dan when he went out to get the streaker on the field. And I guess he wasn't like naked; it was just the drunk idiot out on the field. One of the many, as Kevin Harlan would do the play-by-play of but the guy that went out, and then KC Wolf he did the spread eagle to tackle him. David Hewlett from the Kansas City Star got the absolute best picture of that of all time. And I was going to say, I need to follow up, David. I asked David if I could buy a copy of that picture from him that I could get printed as a poster. And he was like, yeah, I'll just hook you up and everything. So I want to get that. I need to get that from David and print it. And then I would love to get it signed by Dan before I end up getting it framed. That is my favorite sports picture of all time, is just, KC Wolf just absolutely laying out to make the tackle with the security guards on the field. That was just absolutely fantastic. But there's been a lot. I mean, even if you just run into KC Wolf, I mean, Dan inside that costume was just absolutely one of the best mascots I've ever seen. His energy, his excitement, his enthusiasm, it was just absolutely incredible. I share a moment. I probably shouldn't share this one because it might go a little bit against the mascot code. I know a little bit about having worked with some mascots behind the scene. I know a little bit about the code. But there's two moments with Dan that I had, and one was a few years ago. Then I was walking in, and this I had just been on the beat for a few years and everything, but I was walking in, and I think it was either at training camp or it was one of those practices that are open to the fans at the facility during OTAs. But I'm walking down, and Dan's doing his thing and everything like that, entertaining the fans. And I was cracking up at what he was doing and everything. And I walked by, and he just really subtly said, "Hey, Matt, hi." I had no idea that Dan knew who I was. So the fact that Casey Wolf knew my name, I was like blown away. I thought that was really, really I've still been impressionable enough for that to be really, really cool. And then, one of his last appearances was at OTAs this year before, announcing his retirement and everything. And it was, I think that day, I think was like officially his announcement day that he was retiring. I think he may have done a few appearances after that as well, but it was kind of supposedly his last big day and everything like that. And ran into him and got a chance to give him a big hug and everything like that. So those were my favorite memories. I tell you what, watching that guy, you don't know and understand how hard that job is. It is so athletic. I mean, what you have to go through. Dan, just incredible, and his personality comes through and was always a professional. I can also say that from working with mascots in the past, I've also worked with some mascots that were or had experiences with mascots who were not professional. So when you see somebody like Dan, it makes you appreciate them even more. Chris, is the Ham family ready for Sunday? I'm glad you remember that. No, I don't have a ham ready yet, Chris. I mean, it's Easter. Easter is ham for our family. We are ham family after all. I don't know what the plan is this Sunday, though. We haven't really talked about it, and we're not like having a big family get together. So it'll just be me and Nancy here at the house. So I don't know. We'll have to figure out something. So maybe we'll get a little bit of a ham, but I'm more, my bigger deal for Easter is that I really need some deviled eggs. So that's my deal that I have to have. Nikki, you're probably just talking about everybody in general, but I saw your question about genealogy. Tracing your dad's family in Scotland. Excellent. My mom was really into genealogy, and we never got a chance, unfortunately, to do her Ancestry.com test, and I always felt bad about that. I feel like I should do it for her memory and everything. I know one of her sisters or brothers did it, and I guess we found out that a lot of the things that we had thought about our family background was not accurate. Because I know my understanding, I think this part is true. I come from a lot of Irish Protestants and German Catholics, which makes no sense whatsoever. But I've always said that I think that explains a lot of the self-hatred that my family has. There's always this internal battle in our psyches and everything. But we're pretty muddled. There's some English in there. I know that too. It's a lot of European ancestry. There's always been rumors about I feel like that's the case with every family that's in America. If your families have been here for a few generations, that there's some Native American. That was always a speculation in our family that there was a stretch, but I know that my mom's siblings did not come out so much, and it was kind of a surprise because my grandfather was we grew up in Southwest Missouri, so close to Oklahoma and a lot of the tribes down there, and he was routinely asked what tribe he was with by other Native Americans. So he looked like he had a lot of Native American in him, but apparently, according to Ancestry, not so much. So, but Ancestry is pretty fascinating. So, Nikki, I hope you're having fun with that. Having watched other people go through it can be a lot of fun. Daniel, does it feel like the Chiefs are going to go up and get their guy? I just feel like you can't sit back and hope Cincinnati Cowboys or anyone else does not trade up in front of you. 100%, Daniel. I mean, you do have to be on the guard for that. Absolutely. And and you even have to worry about the teams are already there in front of you, going after the guy that you like. I mean, before the Chiefs signed Kenneth Walker, I mean, my fear all along, and people seem to think I was crazy because there were so many of those mock drafts that had Jeremiah Love going to the Chiefs and the Saints, and maybe even falling past the Chiefs. And I'm like, I get that Tennessee needs offensive line help, but I'm like, I don't see how that Mike Borgonzi can let a guy like Jeremiah Love just slide past you and everything, especially when there's outside, like we talked about, outside the tackle from Miami, there's just not a ton of offensive line. I mean, I'm looking at a mock draft databases board right now. I mean, they've got Monroe Freeling from Georgia as the number 2 tackle, and I think there's going to be a lot of teams that don't have a first round grade on him. I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, Francis Maui Goa is probably the only one that's got a consensus first round grade. Maybe Tennessee takes him, but I really think that Jeremiah Love, I mean, just makes so much sense for Tennessee. I thought that months ago. So if Love goes to Tennessee, would not surprise me at all. That's why I thought if not him to Tennessee, then certainly to the Saints, and then the Saints signed their running back too. So now that I think makes it even more convinced that everybody if the teams at 8 and 9 think that the running back's going earlier, then that's probably Tennessee is taking him. And hey, I mean, and right now, I mean, mock draft database has Ruben Bain consensus going to Cincinnati at 10. Hey, does Cincinnati jump up if they think that the Chiefs might be interested? Do they want to get to 7 or 8 to get him? Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. And I mean, the thing is that if you're the Chiefs and you're worried about the Saints, if you get to 7 and Washington's on the board, do you want to jump up to make sure you get your guy? How far up do you have to get if you wanted to get? If it's Bain, looking at how the board is kind of falling right now. I mean, and we're going to learn a lot more over the next few weeks about what teams are maybe looking for, and things will change. But I think it's everything's so fluid right now that it's really hard to see where you might have to jump up. And I'm not, at that point, I'm not a huge fan of like making them. I mean, I wouldn't be in favor of the Chiefs like saying, make a swap up just so you can get up to 10. You swap with the Saints. I mean, first of all, if you call up the Saints should ask, hey, just tell me the position that you want, or offense, defense. And if the Saints want a defensive lineman, and calls up and says, hey, Brett, what Mickey Loomis asked Brett Veach, hey, you going offense or defense? And he says defense. And then Mickey Loomis is like, oh boy, I mean, what position? And he says defensive line. If I'm Mickey Loomis, I'm like, oh no, that's where we're going. So sorry, can't do it. I mean, and then you're talking about making a move up if you wanted to avoid that scenario, going to 6 or to 7. You got Cleveland and Washington there. I mean, Cleveland, I mean, those are two teams that need help too. So I think it might be hard to jump up to get the guy. But you're right. I mean, if you want to guarantee that you can get the player that you want, and if you're the Chiefs, then I think you're absolutely hoping, obviously, that somebody takes David Bailey in front of you, because if David Bailey's off the board, that's one more team that's not taking Ruben Bain. If you're looking for another player, I mean, you may have to go a different direction. So you're right, Daniel. I mean, and that's why I give Brett Veach a lot of credit, that I think he has proven over the years in his job. And I think that he learned a little bit of this from watching John Dorsey. John Dorsey, remember, he figured out that if they wanted to get Patrick Mahomes, he circled 10 pretty much back in like late February, early March. That's when he was like, okay, if we want to get Mahomes, Buffalo at 10 is where we're going to need to go. And he nailed it, because if they had not gotten him at 10, Mahomes was going immediately thereafter. If he made it, I think the Saints were at 12. I think the Cardinals were at 13, somewhere around there. I'm trying to remember. Was it Cleveland that was 11? I can't remember the exact order, but there was a few teams, and somebody else was going to if he didn't go to 11, somebody was popping up there to try and get Mahomes. He was not getting past the Saints or the Cardinals. There was, and then I think there was a couple of other teams that were interested there too. There were possibilities. So you're right. I mean, you've got to know, and that's where Brett Veach, I think, does a really good job at figuring out where players are going to go. He's not surprised a lot when guys go early or somebody else slides, and he's ready for that. I mean, that's the great thing. I mean, they were ready for the possibility that Trent McDuffie was going to slide. They made their move. They got their guy. So I think that's a situation where you're pretty happy with your guy in Brett Veach, if knowing that he does a really good job of navigating the board, anticipating what teams are looking for, and being prepared that hey, he has not been in this position so far, so that's going to be more interesting. But I think Brett's very well equipped to make the move there if they have to. Clinton, do you see a plug and play read guy in Kenyon Sadiq? I don't get it. I see Charles Clay. I see Noah Gray's playbook, a wing slot package, red zone threat. That's fine, dandy. Doesn't round one equal round one to me. I'm right now where you are, Clinton. I mean, there's so much to like about Kenyon Sadiq. I mean, he's a athletic freak. I have a hard time equating the athleticism with the production. The production for me has been, if he is end all be all that and everything, it's like, why doesn't his production match his athleticism? Was it the offense? Was it the usage? I just have some questions, and I know I've harped on this before, and I wish I could remember who it was that made up the point a couple of weeks ago that was like, hey, he may be 6'3", he may be on the short side for a tight end, but his athleticism and his ability to elevate and play above the field, I mean, that offsets the size, and I get that. And then we get into a little bit of, because I told you, I mean, if you go by the heights that are listed on Pro Football Reference, which are not ideal, I will grant you, because those numbers they come from usually they come from the NFL, and the NFL numbers come from the teams. The team numbers just come from wherever. Sometimes they're off of combines. Sometimes they're from pro days. Sometimes they're from the PR department. Sometimes they're from the players themselves. I mean, there's no scientific rationale or linkage to where the official heights and weights for players comes from. But if you go by the official heights that are listed by the NFL, which is what Pro Football Reference does, technically there's no 6'3" tight end in NFL history that's gone for 1,000 yards in a season. Evan Ingram is the most successful. He came close to 1,000 yards once, but he's the most prolific 6'3" or shorter tight end in NFL history. The catch is that Brock Bowers is listed at 6'4", 235. He was 6'3" at his combine. Now, he was also 21, I guess it was, at his combine. So entirely possible that, maybe he has grown. He grew another inch. Maybe he went from 6'3" and 1/8 to closer to enough to 6'4". You can call him 6'4". I mean, I guess height is just a number, but I believe in those trends and the fact that there's a curve there that shows that the shorter you are as a tight end, the less production that you're going to have. And so I do worry about that with Sadiq. I mean, and also, I mean, let's face it, you're not going to go elevating 43 inches on a football field when there's guys all over you and everything. So I have similar concerns that you have, Clinton, for Sadiq, which is why I would not take Sadiq at 9. 29, different ball game, totally different ball game. I would certainly consider Sadiq at 29. I would have, but again, that comes down to a little bit of, I would have a second round grade on Kenyon Sadiq and not a first round grade, and the combine, and that would have been true. I might even had a third round grade on him before the combine and everything, just based on the production and everything. But I think he can be more than Noah Gray, but he's absolutely more athletic than Noah Gray. But how much of, when you're talking about being a red zone threat, I mean, a big part of being a red zone threat is just being big, not being able to elevate. So, I mean, you can elevate to one thing, but if you're going to elevate, then you also have to hold on to the ball through the elevation and go into the ground. And that's one thing that Travis Kelce's never had to worry about, because Travis Kelce's big enough that he can be bigger than anybody he's matching up against for the most part. He can catch the ball and doesn't have to worry about, going 18 inches to the ground or 3 feet to the ground or anything. Um, but it's it's I I don't know. I'm very conflicted on Sadiq. I could be I'm not sure I could ever be convinced I would take him at 9. 29, we can talk, but I've just got to I don't know. I got some bad mojos about Sadiq, and maybe it's a little bit of seeing the Chiefs try and make something out of some shorter tight ends there for a while. John Dorsey's thing was let's draft every big basketball player that you can, or get your hands on, even undrafted guys, and try and turn them into tight ends. Brett kind of goes the other way. I mean, he seems to just go out of his way to try to find every 6'3" tight end he can and turn him into the next Evan Ingram. And what if he just had Evan Ingram for a few years of his career? I think that would have settled everything for Brett. Infopocalypse, do you see KC drafting a safety at all? I cynically think anyone short of Caleb Downs Spags wouldn't play due to his love of Connor. Very funny point, Infopocalypse. You're probably correct, by the way. I absolutely could see the Chiefs going for a corner. I mean, or safety rather. I could absolutely see him doing it. I mean, and it would have to be later. I know Caleb Downs is going to be one of those tricky ones because I know that is at 9, is he a possibility? Sure, he's probably going to be available at 9. I think that there might be players at more premium positions, however, which is why I think that's a tough decision for the Chiefs to make there. And there's some flags with Downs as well that you'd have to address. But the thing is too is that I honestly like what the Chiefs have. Now, granted, Kamari Connor's going to be going into a contract year, so you're going to have to think about, are you extending him or letting him walk? You still don't know really what you have in Jaden Hicks. Year 2 is. I still don't know exactly what it is and understand exactly what it is that the Chiefs have concerns with Jaden Hicks, but they're there, and it's been keeping him off the field. Chris Wallace is solid, but again, it's an undrafted guy that you've kind of turned into something. I mean, I like those 3 safeties as far as how the Chiefs used them, but it's not necessarily set in stone priority. Now, you do draft a safety. I mean, what's the possibility that safety is your number 4 guy this year? And that's not something that you're not taking a 4 safety in the first round. I mean, if you're taking a safety in the first round, you're hoping that player is going to start for you in year 1. At the very least, be a number 3 safety who's going to play a lot and sub packages. So I think that the Chiefs taking a safety is distinctly possible. Infopocalypse, I think it's probably going to be later. Probably my projection would be like an early day 4 or day 4, early day 3 on Saturday selection, maybe 4th-ish round, give or take. I can see that happening. So that's where I kind of feel like that if Chiefs go with the safety, I think that's kind of the ballpark of where they would go. Nikki got the super chat notification because you have been a member for 12 months. So thank you very much. I truly appreciate that. And you are one of our longer running members. So it means a lot to me, Nikki. Thank you very much. And I'm DeBrown. Shannon Sharp was 6'2", drafted as a receiver. Let me see how they list him. I mean, that is always the tricky things. How do they get listed and everything? Gosh, and that's curious. Why did he not come up in the search? I'll have to go back and look at that. I mean, he was listed as a tight end in those years. I've run the search several times, I'm DeBrown, and Sharp has never popped up there before. I'm going to have to completely go back and reconsult with I mean, it's entirely possible that maybe because all of his last 1,000-yard season with 97. I mean, maybe I put a parameter on there of like 2,000 that I don't remember. Maybe that some of the yardages the heights were incomplete at one time. I'll check into it on DeBrown because you're right. I mean, he's listed at 6'2" and he's listed as tight end. So why he wasn't showing up on those search results, I'm now baffled and confused. So this. It's still not going to completely erase my Kenyan Sadiq concerns, but now I'm a little bit concerned about my data that I'm getting from from Pro Football Reference, which I love Pro Football Reference. I live on that thing. So now you really got me thinking on the Brown. I appreciate that. Thanks for the heads up, because I'm going to have to investigate that more fully and see what's going on. Casey Harold, Matt, does the rule change proposed by the Browns that was defeated at the NFL meetings make them go on to the next one, because I have done that before with the premature enter a permanent member of the list? And I'm blanking at the Browns rule change. So I'm going to pull it up real quick, because I'm blanking on which one that was. I'm feeling like this is something that's absolutely going to get them on the list. Also, what was it? Oh gosh, the Todd Monken missing the coach's photo today because they put the wrong time in the wrong time zone on him for the coach's photo, and he was getting a haircut at the time. That can only happen to the Browns. Absolutely. Just that's another reason why they're on the list of teams that don't know what they're doing. Oh, was this the to allow for picks for 5 years out that they withdrew? Okay. I mean, it makes sense, because if you're the Browns, you just totally mess up your draft so many times and everything like that, you probably need to either, be able to plug in from 5 years out to make some trades and everything like that. And surprisingly, the ownership might be thinking about it too, because their ownership might be thinking, gosh, we're probably going to own this team 5 years from now, but maybe we could use those picks that we're not going to ever use to improve this team right now. I wouldn't have been terribly opposed to it. I mean, I get why it got kind of knocked down, but if anything, I mean, I just can't stand the way that the NBA I don't even know why the NBA still has a draft, and it sometimes even cracks me up that because I'm not even sure that the NBA is going to continue to have a draft, and then you see there's a trade that is involved, and somebody is getting another team's 2037 protected first round pick, and it's like, I'm playing basketball underwater in 2037. So, I mean, goodness gracious. And the Browns, I mean, you start getting 5 years out on some trade on trading draft picks. I mean, they might be playing touch football by then. So I understand why. So I know there was looked like there was some opposition to it from everybody. So I don't think it was absolutely needed. I wasn't like dead set against it or anything, but it did seem like a kind of thing that could only come from a team like the Browns that you wonder what they're thinking sometimes. Nikki, were you surprised they didn't bring up the tush push again? A little bit, but I think that the only thing that really surprised me that it wasn't brought up in any way was that I thought that they might revisit the just being a penalty to push the ball carrier, because I thought that the one that was the most egregious, and it was really kind of like why there used to be a rule against pushing the ball carrier, was that Josh Allen run in the playoffs that was just trying to sneak for a yard, gets pushed, and what the guy get pushed like 23 yards downfield. Nobody wants to see that. That's not a football play. That's totally a rugby play. So I wasn't a fan of that one, and that was the play that I thought, okay, yeah, forget the tush push. They're just going to ban all plays that involve pushing the ball carrier downfield. But I think that they're getting to what Nick and I remember used to talk about this, 2-3 years ago with the tush push, was that, I mean, the reason why the Eagles were so good at it was Jason Kelce. He was the heart and soul of that play, and they kept it going. They have not as been I don't believe they've been as successful with it since Jason Kelce left. I know they're still obviously very successful with it, but they've been stopped a few times. I don't think that, like I said, I don't think their numbers are as good as they were with Jason, but I think it's going to get worse as they continue to just swap out more and more players on that offensive line. They had an offensive line that was really well built for it and really, really good at it. And not every team has that, and not every team coaches it the same way. And when you get guys that leave everything, I mean, it's I think it's one of those plays that it's going to ebb and flow. And obviously, the Chiefs don't run it. And last year, they were more successful in those situations with Kareem Hunt than the tush push teams were. So I think that's another part of it too. Teams are getting a little bit better at it. It's it's still a mess, and I think if they ever revisited it again, it's going to be because it's going to be the issue of just saying that, hey, you can't push the ball carrier at all. It's not going to be specifically the tush push. But I was surprised, like I said, that even that didn't come up as a discussion this year. And from Infopocalypse, how sold do you think KC is on McDonald taking Leo's role? I've heard no noise on KC taking a linebacker at any round. Um, I mean, I get the sense that the Chiefs are pretty high on McDonald. They certainly think that he can play that role, not play it the same way that Leo did. I mean, if they're going to put anybody in that strong side role, and it's going to be somebody who plays like 50% of the snaps, like Leo did, maybe a little bit less because they used Leo in some other situations too. I don't think, obviously, McDonald, I don't think is a guy that they would be end up using initially as a pass rusher like the Chiefs did with Leo, slowly but surely over the years. Maybe they would. I mean, maybe they would consider it because Cooper's a little bit bigger than Leo, even though he's not, obviously doesn't have the athleticism that he does. But I'm a bit surprised that there hasn't been a lot of talk about the Chiefs taking a linebacker, mostly because the guys at the top that the two guys from Ohio State, Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, that get most of the attention there, and Brett Veach even made a reference to the fact that hey, Reese might be the best player in the draft this year, and Styles isn't far behind him. That both those guys could be early first round picks. And the funny thing is, like I keep talking about, is that Sonny Styles, he's a couple inches taller than Leo, but otherwise they're close to the same. I mean, similar weight, similar athleticism. I mean, they were both, basically 9.99, 10 RAS guys on the relative athletic score. They're monsters. So I'm kind of surprised, one, that Styles is so much more blown up than Leo is, especially because Leo had better production in college too. I mean, I get different teams, different situations, although still Big Ten. And the Chiefs never used Leo kind of the same way that he was in college, and never gave him the snaps. And we're going to see about Leo. We'll see what kind of a player he is this year in Washington. And I've said all along, I think he could end up having a really good year. Ending up in a different defense. I do think that the Chiefs have a lot of faith in McDonald. And again, they took a linebacker last year with, the notion that, hey, if Drew is done, if Drew moves on, then that he could step up. But hasn't. I mean, that's a tweener guy too. The guy you took last year is a tweener at linebacker and a little undersized. Might end up being a special teams ace. Could be somebody who can fill in at linebacker a little bit, and if so, is probably going to be more of a weak side guy, a guy like Drew Tranquill, much more so than Leo. I have a hard time seeing that you can put both those guys on the field at the same time, and Drew Tranquill and gosh, why am I completely blanking on the poor kid's name? I am so terrible at names, people. I sometimes forget them. I forget my best friends' names. And it doesn't help that Nick Jacobs works with Mick Schaefer, and every once in a while I will call Mick and Nick the same name, different names and everything. I'm just absolutely terrible. My goodness. Man, I know you're all just thinking I've absolutely completely lost my mind. I can even see his face. I'm like looking right at him and thinking, oh yeah, Jeff Bossa. Thank you very much. And I was thinking about, first name was Jeff, and I'm like, why can't I think of Bossa? I mean, like I said, I don't see a lot of snaps where he, Tranquill, and Bolton are on the field at the same time. I think they would be looking for somebody different. So again, in a 8-player draft, where they end up with 8 selections, maybe even maybe still at a 6 or 8 selection draft. I could see them absolutely, uh, going linebacker at some point, because I don't know that they're completely sold on McDonald. Obviously, they brought back Cochran as well, so but Cochran's never really kind of been able to dislodge anybody and move up in the draft in the depth chart order. So I'm not sure. I mean, and Cooper McDonald, there's a lot of projection there too. I mean, there was a lot to like, but again, an undrafted guy with just a lot of upside. So, um, you're adding on. You'd point out Styles also has played safety, so he has really good coverage skills for a linebacker. And that makes me. I mean, I know he's like. I think he was 6'5" at the combine. Which I mean explains. Yeah, he's 6'5", 244 at the combine. I think Leo was like 6'3", 250. I think at the combine. So I mean, outside of about 2 inches and 5 pounds, very similar guys. But at 6'5", 244, I mean, that explains why he's a linebacker now and not a safety. Because that's not even a tweener anymore. I mean, that's just a flat out linebacker. I mean, you might probably grew out of the safety position. So hey, it's a question with Styles. Do you see him more as a Leo type or more as a Tranquil type? I mean, is he a guy that you just feel like has enough ball skills that he can cover a tight end? I mean, and the size is obviously what's got teams more excited about him than Leo. I'm just surprised that those 2 inches are so significant in the way that NFL coaches and scouts seem to see those two guys differently. Toy, who in the draft in the late rounds at receiver do you think would be a good fit for the Chiefs? I am trying not to be a total Chiefs homer in the fact that they're apparently bringing in Kevin Coleman from Mizzou. I think I said Chiefs homer, Mizzou Tigers homer, and they're bringing in Kevin Coleman. Although I do like Kevin Coleman, I think he would be really interesting for the Chiefs. I mean, I think he's good hands, good speed, could return kicks. If he's your 4th or 5th receiver, that makes a lot more sense, having a guy like Kevin Coleman who could return punts and return kicks than trying to put like Xavier Worthy out there that you are thinking of as one of your top 2 receivers, and you don't want to expose on those special teams plays, and you don't want to have to hold out at the beginning of a drive. Kevin Coleman's more the guy that, hey, he's your 4th or 5th receiver, so it's the fact that he can return kicks and do that and everything like that, and that works out okay. Let me pull up my list here and see if there's any other names that are jumping out at me and everything like that. Let's see here. And I'll look at kind of the later rounds. So, because I think, that generally is like Kevin Coleman's like maybe, well, I guess he'd be a day 3 guy. So we'll include him in that conversation. Let me see. I thought there was another guy that the Chiefs were having it on a 30 visit that might fit into that category. Well, they got Ted Hurst from Georgia State, and Hurst is, probably more maybe a 3rd rounder, but it could be in that conversation. Man, I've seen some things from Kendrick Law from Kentucky that I really, really like. I mean, anybody that, and I know that, hey, you're going to find diamonds in the rough. Absolutely, there are, especially getting into the 4th and 5th rounds. You're going to find some guys that can just be studs and will jump out to you and everything like that. I mean, honestly, Coleman might be one of my favorites. And that Stribling kid from Mississippi, I thought was kind of impressive too. Deion Burks, Oklahoma, I guess you're getting kind of, maybe borderline 3rd. There's a few out there, but Yeah, I think I'm trying. I'm like I said, I'm trying to set aside the Mizzou homer in me to just say Kevin Coleman, but he actually does really fit what the Chiefs need, which is an explosive guy in the return game, a good receiver, but not a receiver that's you're taking in the second round and therefore hoping that that guy's on the field on 90% of your offensive snaps, and we're not worrying about exposing in the return game. I mean, Coleman might be a perfect fit for the Chiefs. So that would probably be my preference. But like I said, I'm not trying to be too much of a homer there. There's a few others though, Toy, that could fit in. Let's see how the wide receiver from Iowa is got to be in that conversation, I think. Like I said, I mean Kendrick Law, I liked what I saw from him. I mean, I haven't gone through all the wide receivers or anything like that, so it might be a little recency bias too. With somebody that I saw and just kind of stood out to me and everything. But we'll get more into conversations like that, Toy, as we get closer to the draft, and we'll know a little bit about everybody before the beginning of the draft. Chris, if Mahomes does not start the season, is there a Chiefs record where they decide to just let Mahomes sit out the entire season? I doubt it, Chris. I mean, I think that at any point, I think they would just be happy that when they get him back. I don't think, I don't think you'd ever just want a guy to sit out if he's healthy and ready to play, because those snaps help. I mean, that work helps. I mean, if for some reason, Mahomes couldn't make it back until week 9 and the Chiefs are 0-8 at that point, I still play Mahomes, even if it looks helpless, just because getting that work in is going to make him better for 2027. If he were to sit out all of 2026, it's that's just missing a lot of football. So I think that the snaps and the time and the recovery would all be beneficial to him. And I mean, again, I'm going to be in the ballpark that you don't know with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you could be 0-8. He might come back and all of a sudden you're 9-8 and you get into the playoffs and now you're red hot and you win a Super Bowl. I'm not giving up on a Super Bowl anytime Patrick Mahomes is my quarterback. So, like I said, there's not. I mean, even if it was week 12, I'd still bring back Mahomes, because I do think that just that work alone, knocking off the rust, would be important to the following season. But I mean, knock on wood, it's looking like things are going well, and that's not going to be an issue. You're really going to be talking about Mahomes being ready in the very, very early beginning of the season. So, and uh, Toy, how accurate do you think the PFF mock draft is to real drafts? Would love yours and Nick's thoughts. I'll see. I'll try and bring it up on the podcast this week, Toy, and if not, I'll ask Nick off to the side and bring back thoughts next week. I mean, myself have never done a either first round mock or a full 7. I've just done Chiefs mock drafts and everything over the years, and I mean, I've stumbled on a few that have hit. I mean, and luckily in my job, for better or for worse, if you're doing 4 or 5 mock drafts a year, you can probably stumble on a pick here and there that's going to hit. Sometimes not always in the round, but I've had some luck with some second round picks for the Chiefs, because and third round picks, because I did. Nick Bolton was a strong Chiefs are taking Nick Bolton, and I did with Brian Cook. I did say going into the draft that night that the Chiefs, I felt, were coming out of Friday night at the draft with Brian Cook, that's a guy that they should take. And Nick's much better. And you know what? And the first mock draft that I ever remember reading of Nick's was in 2013. And as I remember, I think Nick hit like the first 3 players that the Chiefs took that year. I know he had Eric Fisher, he had Travis Kelce. They had the Chiefs taking Travis Kelce. I think there was a third that he hit, and I think he had like a 4th player that um, was just a different round than the Chiefs ended up taking. He's really good. He is so good at especially when he's got the time to look at other teams as well and see what they're going to do in the first rounds. He's always done really well in those. And like I said, last year, obviously, it was the best in the world at it, projecting that last year. So I'll ask him what his kind of thoughts are and everything like that. I've never really looked. I mean, I know from looking at the standings and those competitions and everything. Hey, there's probably some people that I dismiss sometimes that end up doing really well in those contests, and some that I think are really good that don't do really well in those contests, and everybody probably has their different motivations. I mean, I know I get the sense that some guys just put in, who they think are the 32 best players into, their draft board for, to the first 32 picks. Nick does a really good job of analyzing the teams and knowing what their needs are and kind of who fits their schemes and everything. And I think that's what gives him an advantage and doing an analysis like that. And and again, it's incredibly difficult because I'll tell you what, I mean, I have a hard enough time just focusing on the Chiefs and getting a sense about who they're going to pick, especially because, like I've talked about, they're so tight-lipped that you really just have to read the tea leaves and see who they've been talking to and trying to do these things. And then, of course, they'll mix things up with you and take players that they never talked to at any point. Maybe had a conversation with them at the combine, and that's about it. And Toy, I also saw, and if we're talking about getting a Jacob's mock, you're going to get one this year. He is going to do, like I said, the first round mock at the end, but he won't. I don't think he's going to be doing any Chiefs-centric mocks and everything, just because of the time requirements and everything that's kind of on his plate this time of year. Hopefully, I didn't cover up my microphone there. It was kind of an amateurish crossing of my arms, so hopefully didn't mess things up. I am going to do last call since I think we've got one or two more questions in the hopper. I'll go back to and make sure I didn't miss anything. But you but any questions? Fire away with them. We'll get them in here before the deadline. So running a little ahead of schedule tonight. That's kind of crazy. But Casey Harold, what does draft night look like for you? Live show. I've had intentions of trying to do more live coverage on draft night. Maybe it can happen this year because the Chiefs are drafting a little bit differently. The challenge is that on draft night, I'm in the Chiefs media workroom here in Kansas City at their facility. So we've got two workspaces. There's our main room that we're usually in where they hold the press conferences and everything, and that's a pretty tight space. And then there's a back room, and they use that as an overflow room for the draft and for food. So there's not a really good place, and unless the weather is helpful. But now even that's going to be a little bit tricky because security is tighter, so we have to go through security in a different way than we used to. So I'm not even sure if that's going to be an option. So usually it's finding a place, Casey Harold, that I can go to, and I don't, without being, in the way. And I don't mean this in a bad way because they do their best not to bother anybody. But we have in the past, especially when the Chiefs were drafting late and it's dark out and everything, and there's not a lot of space. We've had competing news crews doing their like 10 o'clock news live hits from inside the media workroom, and we're all talking and everything like that while they're doing the live hits. I think we had some live hits going on one year while we were doing a draft pick interview on Zoom on a Friday night. So for me, I'll get to the facility usually a couple hours before the round starts. I might get there even earlier this year with the Chiefs with the early pick in the first round. But I like to get there, get set up. I like set my assigned desk. I set up with everything that I need. All my I'll have Nick's draft materials there with me. I'll have the NFL draft materials. I'll have Dane Brugler's stuff. I've got all my resources, everything that I read, all of that at the handy and the ready, so I can check things off as the draft goes on and see where things look like what they're going, who's going to be available for the Chiefs at what spots. I've got a list up that I can keep changing whenever there's trades, so I know when the Chiefs are on the clock, all that. And then normally, and I anticipate that we'll be able to do it again this year, Nick and I do podcast after the draft, and kind of after both of us get done with our evenings, and I'm writing, and Nick is producing TV. So usually it ends up being a little after midnight on Thursday and Friday nights, a little bit earlier on Saturday, but we wrap up the draft on all 3 nights. Um, haven't done a live show during the draft, either with Nick and I, or just with myself at the draft. Might have to every year, Casey Harold. I try to do it. I keep thinking to myself, this is the year that I'm going to do it. I bring all my gear, I set up, I test, I'm ready to go if need be, and then it's just like, gosh, there's too much going on here. There's too many people in the way. I'm going to be causing some people grief and everything. We'll see if we can't figure out something this year to make it work, because I would like to kind of, if I can take you all there and everything. Sometimes I think there's a place where I can set up, and the next thing I know, there are people working there. I mean, for the draft of Chiefs. Normally in that room for press conferences, there's just the podium for the coaches and players stand at. For the draft, they bring in a table with a riser, and then the table has the microphone there, so they can have 2 or 3 people at the table. They'll have they'll use that, for instance, for the Hall of Fame, team's Hall of Fame selection. So they'll have like Clark Hunt and the player there. So sometimes I think they've done Andy and Brett at the same time. So don't have 2 up there very often. But you also, when there's not a press conference, you will often just have somebody up there working, because there's not a lot. The desk space is at a premium. So you will see some people just sitting up there, typing away on their computers and everything like that, in between press conferences, just because there's nowhere else to set. And Chris, why is security different? I probably should not go into too much detail. It probably would not be proper etiquette, but I can say that all the NFL teams changed a lot of their security last year. As you may remember, I think it was about year and a half ago. I think it was during training camp of 2024, if I'm not mistaken. There was a shooting at the NFL headquarters at 345 Park Avenue. After that, the NFL sent out some revised rules, and they did kind of a security sweep about how that they wanted the security to be done at team facilities. So you do have to go through metal detectors now to enter the team facilities across the NFL. That's not just the Chiefs, that's every NFL team. They want fewer points of entry. So we used to be able to just go in through the media entrance, which was directly into the Chiefs work, into the workroom. And then there were secure doors beyond that, but now that door can't go in through that door. You have to go in through the main entrance and go through security. So that's probably about the most that I should say about it and everything. And there's other things as well, but it's not. There was a lot of speculation when these things came down that this was Travis and Taylor Swift related. It was not. Every team in the NFL has gone through these changes in the last 18 months and implemented them. It was entirely in response to the shooting at the NFL headquarters on Park Avenue in New York. Thankfully, no one from the NFL was injured. There was someone from another business that was killed in that incident, so it was very serious. I understand all those moves. So, Casey Harold. Yeah, I some of us, I know I've done pictures before in the past and everything like that. I will definitely make sure that you get to live vicariously through me, because as often noted by the Kansas City media, we may have our picks about the Chiefs and some of their policies, some of the things that they do, and sometimes they may try to save a little money and everything. But I'm going to give them props. And I have not covered another team's NFL draft. I've only been with the Chiefs, but I can say, after talking to people who have covered NFL drafts at multiple sites and multiple team sites, and talking to other people around the league about what their teams do for the draft, I will give it to the Chiefs. The Chiefs do the best draft setup for everyone covering the draft and for the employees working in the draft of anybody in the league. Their staff just knocks it out of the park. Do an incredible job. So, and like I said, it's not just for the media. It's not like just kissing up to us or anything. We're eating the same food that they're serving, like Clark Hunt and Andy Reid and Mark Donovan's of the world. So that's incredibly nice of them. So yes, they do. They go all out for the draft. So I definitely need to make sure you can live vicariously through me for the draft. Like I said, I think that's it. I'm going through, and I think we've hit on all the questions for tonight. I am definitely going to go back in and see what is causing issues on that Pro Football Reference search, because you're right. I mean, Sterling Sharp should have been on there. So I don't know. Once again, if I had just narrowed it down to since 2000, and I think someone threw in another tight end that maybe should be on that list. So Sharp for sure. And he was a tweener. There was no doubt about that. I'll check into it and see. So I'm DeBrown. Appreciate you not pointing that out. I'll go through the comments and see if there's anybody else there too, and see what my search result did that threw things off so much. Everybody, like I said, we are going to have a few things coming up here as we get ready for the draft. There's going to be a few more things coming out, as you may not see Nick as much in them like we've done in the past, where Nick and I are interviewing draft prospects, but I'm hoping to have a few of those at least through Chiefs Digest, if not through 41 is the mic. Hopefully you'll be able to find those and enjoy them. We'll have some of those coming up here over the next month as we get ready for the draft, and we'll be back on your feeds with 41 is the mic on Sunday. And our next step is we're all getting ready for the draft and talking about everything coming up. Everybody have a great week. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hope you're all doing well. And let's just keep enjoying the draft as